Hi, all, and welcome back to the Process Improvement Practitioner Show. It's been a while since I've released any episodes, and if you were hoping for more content, I apologize for the wait. I decided that the last episode was a good place to take a pause in order for me to focus on pursuing a career goal that's been on my radar for well over a decade, the Project Management Professional Certification, or PMP. I'm happy to say that I passed the exam with a above target grade level and on my first time. Honestly, the night before, I was pretty certain I would not pass it, so once I realized that my view of passing the test was so off base compared to the reality of the situation, I decided I really wanted to talk about it and share my experience with others to hopefully take away the fear that comes from the preparation, the fear that I developed during the preparation, and ultimately to encourage you to pursue and earn the certification. So my goal today is to talk about my thoughts on what I think the PMP is all about, what I thought of the PMP after I went through this process, why did I decide to pursue it, what's the process for pursuing it, what is the preparation like, what did I do to prepare, and how hard was it to be certified, and also what did I learn, or what did I wish I had known before I went and took the exam. So what is the Project Management Professional Certification? I'm going to just read this verbatim from ChatGPT because it obviously did a much better job to sum this up than I could have done, I think. So let me read it. The Project Management Professional Certification is a globally recognized credential offered by the Project Management Institute, PMI, that validates a person's expertise, experience, and competence in leading and directing projects. I like that definition. It's very nice. And I think and we'll hit on these keys, right? Is one of the big takeaways I had is that the PMP test is not about memorizing things. It's about validating your experience, and I'll cover that a little more. So that was like one of the big ahas I had. The purpose, again, reading from AI. The purpose. The certification demonstrates that you have one, the knowledge of project management principles, processes, and best practices as defined in the PMBOK guide, or Project Management Body of Knowledge. This fella right here, it's heavy. 2, the experience to lead teams and deliver results on time and within budget. Yeah, sounds pretty good. 3, the ability to apply predictive, which is another word for waterfall, agile, and hybrid methodologies effectively. So I recorded this video before and I realized I needed to add one thing. So if you're watching on video, you'll see that I got a haircut, but I kept the same t-shirt. I wanted to add in a few thoughts on why a process improvement expert, continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma type of person should pursue the project management professional certification. And I think the important thing is we talked about the mindset of change leadership, change improvement, continuous improvement. It's process improvement is change management, and project management is change management. So in the end, we are leaders of change, and all continuous improvement projects are projects. Not all projects are continuous improvement in nature, but certainly all the work that we do, from the smallest Kaizen to a 3-year transformation project, those are all projects. And so certainly that all fits under project management, and makes sense that you would want to be recognized for being an expert in simply project management, or I like to call it change management. One of the other things that, again, you'll hear throughout the video, is that I was really thrilled to see how much emphasis the PMP exam puts on how to lead people through change, how to work with stakeholders, how to guide stakeholders, how to Get what you need out of your stakeholders, how to lead through influence. This is all extremely applicable to what you do as a continuous improvement leader. Again, a huge subset of the PMP, also one of the 10 knowledge groups of the PMP, is quality management. In fact, I think the curriculum includes, and I don't know if you'll be tested on this, the curriculum includes even some rudimentary things like Pareto chart, histogram, control charts. So there is a little flavor of quality management. Although the quality management is also focused on the quality of the project delivery, but it also focuses on the making sure that you're achieving the benefits of the project, which is super important, right? So nobody wants to spend $10 million to not get a lift, an improvement out of it. So big part of learning how to be a project manager, of getting this certification is really the focus on the quality, not about just making sure the trains run on time so that the train arrives on time and nobody leaves the train, nobody exits, there's nothing there for anybody, nobody cares. The curriculum, the PMP curriculum recognizes, hey, we need to be focused on what are the key metrics, are we delivering, validate that we're delivering. And a lot of strong customer alignment in the curriculum, which again is something I've emphasized certainly in this podcast, and is certainly something that is emphasized in a good continuous improvement curriculum. We are always laser focused on the customer. And I think the other thing is that the exam has now a strong, I think about 40% of the curriculum or of the test is about agile methodology, agile delivery, which is I could focus. Anyone who's familiar with agile, certainly specific Scrum, when you see it and lean, you're going to say that is a lean project that has been completed. That is what agile is. What happened when somebody took the waterfall development process and said, let's apply lean thinking to delivering software. What would I do? What would I change? The result is agile. It is Scrum. Certainly, and I could spend a whole episode on it, but the best example is the fact that we're taking all the waste, all the waiting waste. We don't spend all this time writing a big giant business requirements document, throw it over the wall, wait 6 weeks, get something back that tells us how much it's going to cost. You're in that room, you have your product owner captive, your developers are there, and they can ask questions. Is this what you want? Yes or no. Is this what you want? Yes or no. That's very lean, right? There's no waiting. There's no waiting 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And there's certainly none of this, at the end of 6 months and you're doing your user acceptance testing and the product owner realizes this is exactly what I didn't ask for. This is not what I wanted. Doesn't happen with Agile because there's that constant feedback. You're in that room. So lots and lots of lean is in there. So you all should not only be familiar with Agile development, Agile delivery, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be software. It certainly doesn't. Although the world is all around software now. So certainly you really should be familiar with it. But the PMP is going to test you on that. And importantly, it's going to also reinforce the leadership aspects of Agile, which is very much about servant leadership, which I talk about later on. So again, Agile is all about, is this great methodology that came about because somebody looked at software development, traditional waterfall software development, and said, hey, look, what if I take out all the waste and what if I align it strongly to the customer? What would that look like? So as we continue on, I just want to make sure that I emphasize that I think as the PMP exam sits now, I find it to be much more relevant to what we do as continuous improvement professionals than it was when I first asked the question 14 years ago. In terms of familiarity with the PMI's PMP certification, The PMP really, for me, and I've been doing project management now 30 years, I think. The certification really didn't seem to come up other than in the context of hiring, meaning looking for a job. Some jobs will say, "Oh, we're looking for someone, nice to have or required to have PMP certification." So then you just kind of, "Oh, what is that?" And you go find out about it. Not every project management job even asks about it. Not all industries care about it. In my experience, it seems like it's government or government adjacent folks that care about the PMP certification. I don't think it really came up when I was in the service, but certainly it seems like a lot of people leaving the service now are getting their PMP certifications as part of their offboarding out of the military into civilian life. So there's a lot of focus around it. That raises a lot of questions for me, actually. But yeah, it seems to come up. It seems to come up in the context of, I think, military transitioning out of the military. Way back, I think about 15 years ago. So I don't know why it had come up in my head, but maybe again I was doing a job search, or maybe I'd seen something, and I asked this recruiter, this headhunter, who had headhunted me for a great job with a bank. And I by then was a Lean Six Sigma practitioner, been practicing, for a number of years. Went through all the training, kind of the old school GE, several weeks of GE style training. And he said, don't worry about getting a PMP. You have a Lean Six Sigma black belt. That's good. So I was okay, good. I'm good. I won't worry about it. And even actually in that job, I had a business analyst working for me who was PMP certified, and honestly, it didn't strike me didn't strike me he had any experience or knowledge or ability to lead projects. It didn't come across at all. So I guess my impression was, yeah, a few people ask about it. The people who have it probably could take a test. Congratulations on memorizing a bunch of stuff. You can take a test. Do you know how to lead a project? No. So not a great impression of it, and the fact that I had a Lean Six Sigma black belt, not so much the certification, because again those are pretty easy to get to. I think it's more about the experience that's on your resume that matters more than certifications, whether it be Lean Six Sigma certification or PMP. So my first attempt at the PMP certification, I came back to it in 2018. I was looking for work, and I think I was starting to probably see again in the context of looking for a job, and you start to see PMP nice to have, PMP preferred, PMP required. Okay, well, what is this? I'll go check it out. And by then I had learned that it's called the Institute of Veterans and Military Families. It's IVMF. It operates out of Syracuse University. If you're a veteran, they will offer a free certification. They'll pay for the training, then they'll pay for the certification. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I went through them, signed up for the training, did all the work I needed to do to get kind of get ready for that. I also bought there's a book by Rita Mulcahy. It's buried in one of my boxes somewhere. Remind me to burn it. So that book was like the book to get. So I got that PMP practice or a test prep book. So took the class through the IVMF. Horrible training. I just remember 35 hours of videos that were animated, and the narrator basically just read off bullet lists. So just imagine taking a bunch of lists of bulleted information, and a disembodied voice reads it off while there's cute little graphics playing on the screen. It was terrible. Then I got to the Mulcahy book that had like these flashcards you could cut out, and it was about, okay, you need to memorize all these 49 processes. You need to be able to put them on a table and organize them in the correct order, which of course is not, there is no order. These processes are not linear. So I don't know why. I don't know why I was saying to do that. I just got the sense that between the terrible training, the focus on memorization, that I'm out. By then I had landed a job. Didn't need a PMP to get that job, and I saw that there was an announcement that the test was going to be changing, was going to have one of these big changes, and so it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, either go for it or not. I think I'd taken the practice test. They weren't going to pay for my practice test unless I had achieved like a certain grade, so I was going to have to spend 4 hours to get the practice result. I was just below the cusp that they would have let me go forward, so I said, okay, I'm just going to focus on this new job. And so I just put the whole thing down. I just said, okay, I'm good. I will, and part of it was, the necessity was gone. I'd done the work, but it just seemed like at that level of experience, I think by then 25 years of experience leading projects. I don't know what this certification is going to do for me that my resume doesn't already do, and demonstrate that I have the ability to lead projects and had done a lot of things. So juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as the kids say. I'm out. So how did I come back to this? Well, another job hunt comes up, and you start looking at jobs, and you start seeing, PMP preferred, PMP required. Also, didn't come up a whole lot. I think in my mind, one instance really stung with a specific company. I had kind of a good in, if you will, in terms of, okay, I knew somebody at the company that can put my resume, at least on the, a shorter pile versus the AI driven pile of thousands for a certain job. And, the person came back and said, oh yeah, sorry, this is a PMP required position. It was like a director of project management. It's like, I have more than enough experience leading projects. They wanted a PMP, so that really stuck with me. Okay. So that kind of got my interest. I asked a person kind of helping me with my job search. And same question I asked that recruiter 15 years ago. Should I get my PMP? And the answer was kind of like, so okay. Well, maybe that's an answer. Maybe it's kind of like, well, if you're struggling to answer whether yes or no, maybe I should do it. So decided to learn more about it. Actually, and this is where my opinion very much changes on the PMI and the PMP certification. I dug a little bit more into it. I saw that the curriculum seemed to have changed quite a bit. It seemed like the curriculum was much more relevant. A big change that had happened where 40% of the test is now on agile methodologies. When I learned it back in 2019, it was still waterfall. And, even in 2019, it was incredibly irrelevant. I mean, I was doing agile in I was on a first agile project with a big bank, and that was 2015. We started dipping our toe into agile, and it was going great. Here it is in 2019, and we're still talking waterfall. Like, really? And now in 2025, it's like, okay, they've adopted agile. This is great. This makes it a lot more relevant. So piqued my interest. I went and got the Ramdial book. I don't know if that's how you say his name, Andrew Ramdial, on Amazon. $45. You get the big old book. So I tabbed it. You get and you get 35 hours of training. I had already completed 35 hours of training through IVMF, which technically, I could have used that to meet that requirement. But the test by then had changed a couple different times, especially with this new big change. So I said, I'm just going to go redo the training. I have a Scrum Master certification I just got the year before, but no matter. Let me just go dive into this and kind of do it the right way. And this guy's, seems like he's got a good reputation. So I got that book, and it's $45. I'm in for $45. It's a pretty low pretty low risk situation. So decided to kind of dive into it and kind of suss this out and see whether I want to keep doing it. So in terms of deciding to pursue it, as I started watching the videos that Andrew does, and his focus on, kind of focusing on, it really seemed like he was focusing on the right things with this certification. We're not talking about memorizing. We're talking about being a good leader and being a good manager and being a servant leader, learning, again, hearing and reading about the certification being more of a validation of experience versus a demonstration of the ability to memorize a bunch of information. I bought in. It made sense. It's clicking for me. My impression on this is that it's that PMP, the PMI organization, has moved away from testing people on their ability to memorize. At West Point we'd call it a haze, or it's a hazing exercise, and more towards validation of experience. And I'd read a couple things, and it kind of makes sense from a business standpoint that your certification is only as good as the people who go around saying they have the certification. So if you want to certify a bunch of dirt bags and they go running around being dirt bags and they're like, yeah, I have certification A, B, and C. Well, A, B, and C certification not only is not a value add, but is now this is hurting people. Now it's, you have the A, B certification? Okay, yeah, I had a bad experience with that, not going to touch it. So I think PMI realizes that, maybe we need to stop, having people run around with knowledge that they spec'd and then they dumped, don't know how to lead projects, don't know how to take care of people, don't know how to be successful as project managers. It makes sense that they would realize that if they want to be relevant in the future, that they need to be probably honestly validating that people are good leaders and know how to manage projects and have competency. It makes sense that they would change their examination to look for people that will represent them well and know what they're doing. And that's the sense I started to get, that the certification is really about validating experience and also instilling the appropriate culture. So again, you can have plenty of experience, but if you're going around treating people terribly, well, that's not good experience, that's bad experience. So the other piece of it is that I got the sense from Andrew's class that it's about the mindset, which I've talked on this podcast before about having a continuous improvement mindset, well, having a project management, change management mindset, and how do you lead projects? What's your role on a team in a project? Scrum and Agile has gone a long way to getting us to think about being servant leaders, and that I think that really resonated for me. So I also, that helped me, the thing that helped me decide to pursue it was, again, thinking about, with the number of years of experience I have and realizing that, I am a continuous improvement. I'm passionate about continuous improvement, passionate about process improvement, Lean Six Sigma methodologies, but that is a subset of the greater sphere of project management, of program management, of change management. And if my brand is change management, continuous improvement is one big part of that, but not, there's other aspects. If that is my brand, then I'm wondering at what point does not having the certification, the certification is maybe not so much an asset at this point, but more of a liability if you don't have it. So, if I'm going to present myself as a expert in change management and project management, could I do that better with a PMP certification? So I think ultimately those were things that really started to drive me towards pursuing this. So the process for certification with the Project Management Institute to get your project management professional certification is, a big first step is you have to validate for, first of all, do you have the requisite years of experience leading projects? And the way they look at it is also a combination of your education levels. So if you have a high school education level, you need more years of project management experience. If you have a college degree, it's less. So that combination of years of experience and education is one of the requirements. and so make sure you can kind of meet those requirements. You'll need to provide that information when you apply for permission to take the exam. So it's important. And honestly, I feel, and I'll talk more about my impressions of the exam after taking it. I really feel like you really wouldn't want to take this exam without having some significant real world experience, some good experience, leadership experience. And I'm not, when I say significant, it doesn't mean like 10 or 20 or 30 years, but I think don't try to stretch your years of experience to qualify to take the exam. I think you want to have good experiences under your belt, have done a number of things if possible, just because the questions and the test are just so experience driven. You're in a situation, what do you do? You're in this situation, what do you do? Obviously, the more times you're in experiences, you're going to have a better sense of kind of where this question's coming from. Oh yeah, I've seen this movie. I know how this goes. Yeah, I get why the answer is C. So also you'll need to purchase the membership to the PMI. I think it's like $149. You'll need to get 35 hours of training. I had already met that, like I said, I already met that requirement the first time, but decided because there had been two big changes to the exam since then, I decided let's get the latest and greatest education. Probably turned out it probably wasn't the latest and greatest education, but I don't know that anybody does have that out there, and we'll talk about that later as well. So I'm glad I went ahead and repeated again with the Andrew book for $45. It includes a 35-hour training. I get a nice big giant book reference, so it felt like a pretty good value. I know you can get the training through, I think, PMI directly, hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that training. Not necessary, I don't think. So then you schedule once you go through the training, you feel like you're kind of at the, you're going to be wrapping that training up. You probably want to go ahead and schedule the exam. Andrew actually recommends in one of his videos he says, he's got all these certifications. He says he schedules the exam first and then takes the class. So if you're kind of like that person, you need kind of a big kick in the butt to, kind of get you motivated and focused. Consider that. I did the hybrid approach where I was not done with the training, but realized if I don't schedule the exam, I'm just going to keep pushing this out. So I went ahead. Once I knew I was pretty much at the finish line, I scheduled the exam. It's good to schedule the exam. It costs $475. You can do it either at home or on site. I chose to do it on site just because I didn't want to mess with the online calculator you would have to use on the screen. Turns out you didn't really need to use the calculator on the test. More about that. I think if you can take it at home, but I think there's probably a lot of security requirements around that. Honestly, I think taking it on site is probably better, just because I think PMI is going to have more control over you, and they're going to have more confidence that your exam was taken in a secure environment. I think there's a lot of cheating that happens. You get checked for cameras and listening devices, because there's people that have these, the camera in the glasses, and they have the earbud, and somebody's looking up the questions as they go through them with the camera and feeding them the answers, and that's disgusting. I hate that. I hate that so much. So happy to show up to an on-site facility, happy to be screened and pat myself down and empty your pockets and check your glasses for listening devices. Yeah, I'll do all that, because I don't want anything to discredit the experience. So I did it on site. You're going to want to schedule it well in advance, because that's the downside to on site, is it's, you're looking 2, 3, 4 weeks out, depending on the time of year. 180 questions, 4 hours. That's build yourself up for it. Just like think of it as a half marathon. You don't just jump into a half marathon race and just go run it. You're going to want to build yourself up during your prep. But yeah, there's 3 areas of study: people, process, and business environment. I'm not going to go too much in all that. You can, as you're pursuing it, you'll learn about all the different things. Your grade is not a grade; it's a performance rating. So they do
above target, target, below target, and needs improvement. So obviously passing at target or above is a pass. And also in terms of my prep, in addition to the Andrew Ramdale class, this book right here, I'm not being incentivized, by the way. No one's paying me anything. I just keep bringing the book up. I also, later in my preparation, I think I started getting worried about how prepared I was. So I went and bought there's something called Study Hall through PMI, and it's like a $49 course. So at this point, I'm about $720 in on this journey that I've decided to take. So my impressions of this experience, I've probably alluded to a number of them. I would say the night before, I was pretty convinced I was not going to pass this test. And the reason I was in that place is because probably in the 10 days before, I did well on Andrew's online prep exam. I think I got like an 81%. It's like, okay, 81, I can get that to 90 in the next 10 days or so. And looked and did some practice questions online. There's some YouTube videos out there that are 5 or 6 hours long, and they just go practice question, practice question, practice question. I started doing those. I started getting really frustrated. I got the PMI study hall through PMI and was frustrated there because they were asking questions that weren't even in the body of knowledge. So I don't know why PMI study hall is asking me questions about DISC. I don't know if you're familiar with DISC. I can't remember what it stands for. It's basically like Myers-Briggs. It's another version of it. There's a question on it in PMI study hall about DISC and what this rating is and what that rating means. That's nowhere. I looked it up. I checked the PMBOK. It's not in the PMBOK. I don't know why PMI study hall is asking these questions. I'm kind of panicking. Like the body of knowledge is so huge. Is this knowledge body expanded beyond what I've been able to study, what I'm even able to study? So that really freaked me out, that I'm getting hit with practice questions from PMI on things that are not even on the test. I know they're not on the test. And then again, a lot of them are judgment questions. And I was finding a few where it's like, no, that is not the right answer. Believe me. And again, and it wasn't, and you can make a situational question. You can't, it's really hard to write a situational question where there's a specific right answer. So some of those questions were very much judgment calls and based on circumstance. And so that got kind of worried. It's like, well, at this rate, there's no guarantee that I could pass, because if they're gonna kind of pull out the judgment card on me on some of these questions, I'm toast. So I think at that point, I was very nervous. And then 10 questions into the exam, it's like, oh boy, they gaslit me. They gaslit me. This is way easier. This is way easier than I was led to believe. These questions are layups. And now they made me sign stuff that said, do not reveal questions. And I would never do that. You need to go earn this thing. So, there's no, I have no skin in the game to be helping anybody pass a test. I want to encourage people to take the test, and I want to encourage you to pursue it. So there is no intention on my part whatsoever to help anybody or give them any information that is that you can't find publicly. So that's my. So if PMI is watching, which I'd be thrilled if they were. I'm not. Let me know if you think I'm giving away information that is protected by what I agreed to, because I'm definitely not going to do that. So that being said, I felt like the questions were very different than the PMI prep programs. And I felt like the questions were, again, very situational based. Questions that were like leadership based. Like, I just would laugh in the test because you'd have, okay,
it is all situational questions. Okay, you're in this situation, and say a key resource has been reassigned from your project to something else, or the functional leader has taken away this person. Stuff that happens like every project ever, right? Resource constraints. You're a project leader. You have all the accountability, but none of the authority. It's classic project management 101, right? You've been there. And someone says, yeah, your subject matter expert is supposed to be on your project. Yeah, I need him to work on this thing. We have month end close, whatever. Classic question. And so you'll have the answers, and it's like, okay, what's the first thing you're going to do? Like, what are you going to do next? And there's always going to be, it seemed like there would always be an answer that was like the utterly ridiculous, like, bring the hammer down kind of response, like, I'm going to just go nuclear. There'd be an answer that would be, oh, well, I got to go escalate this to my sponsor. And then there would be two answers that would be reasonable. Like, those two were like, okay, no, those aren't going to be the right answer. Project managers don't go running to their boss every time they hit a roadblock. And project managers don't go around hammering people and bringing down the hammer. And it goes back to the mindset of, and we'll talk a little bit more about, and Andrew's class is really good about the mindset of project managers are fetching food and water. Project managers are servant leaders. Project managers are removing barriers so your people can do wonderful, great work. That's what so it's like, okay, this is a mindset test, and these are very clear-cut choices. They're not judgment calls as much. So that made me feel a lot better. It also kind of got me thinking, like, boy, did I get gaslit on my prep? That another thing too is classic project management training talks about calculating critical path, and you probably maybe took this in a class way back in the day about you took all the boxes and you kind of arranged them, and each of the steps took this many days, and then you had alternate paths, and you had to calculate the critical path. Andrew's got four videos on this and how to do it. And the week before I took the test, I'm relearning how to do critical path and calculate the float and the free float and the total float. I don't think there was any questions on that. Every project management professional training class tells you got to memorize the earned value equations. CPI, CV, EV, AC, EAC, ETC, VAC, TCPI. I have all those memorized. That's my parlor trick. I did it for my wife. It was like the night before, and like, hey, watch this. And I took out a piece of paper and I wrote out from memory the 12 or 13 earned value management equations. And she was kind of impressed, right? It's like, okay. I think I may have gotten 2 or 3 questions on that body of knowledge, and they didn't require any real calculation. It was really more about applying that information versus getting an answer. Like, even the prep classes are like, oh, well, you have a CPI, you have this number, what's the CPI? It was more of like, okay, your CPI is this. What does that mean? Your SPI, schedule performance indicator, is this. What does that mean? Right. So CPI, if it's 1 or above, if it's 1, you're on budget. If it's above 1, you're you're under budget. If it's below 1, you're above budget. Same with schedule. If your schedule performance indicator or schedule performance index is 1, you're on schedule. If it's over 1, you're ahead of schedule, and if it's below 1, you're under schedule. That kind of about the knowledge you needed for the test. So I had memorized all this stuff, didn't need it. Going back to the Mulcahy book, I had the little flashcards with all the 49 cards and the 10 process groups. You got to memorize all this. No, you didn't have to memorize it. Andrew's class even said, oh yeah, here's the 33 key documents that come out of the 49 processes. You got to know these. I have flashcards. okay, this document comes out of this process, that is this process group, and this is what it is. Didn't need it. Didn't need it. I wouldn't say not go learn all that stuff, because I could be wrong, and I think maybe that information was kind of embedded in these situational questions that were probably very well written. I think they had to have been very well written, but I don't remember being asked of, okay, what document is produced out of the defined scope process? Those questions weren't there. And that's a good thing. The questions were about, what do you do in this circumstance? This thing has happened to your project. What do you do? What's the first thing you do? That is so much more relevant than being able to recite a bunch of stuff that I can look up in a book, or I can just type into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can tell me immediately like what the process steps are. That's not a good credential. And I was just so relieved. I was so relieved that I burned up so much time just kind of pondering in the first 60 questions. What would I tell people? What I was just so wrong about what this was going to be about, and pleasantly so. So again, yeah, so many questions were just asking about just applying good judgment. Andrew's class, he says in that class that your experience is going to hurt you. I think I said this earlier. And I get that, yeah, if you've had experiences that maybe you went around hammering people, just being authoritarian, that's not what PMI wants you to be. PMI doesn't want you to take a test as an authoritarian and pass it. If you're an authoritarian, you have no business being a project management professional today. And your career will be short and inconsequential. PMI wants you to think the way they think. They want you to be the way they want you to be. So you want to have, hopefully you have good positive leadership experiences, again, carrying forward that mindset of a project manager is a facilitator, a coach. I'm here to coach and educate, and I'm here to be a servant leader, to clear roadblocks and make sure you guys are able to be successful. I'm not burning you out. I'm not mistreating you. I'm not treating you horribly. So this is a test to find out if you have those positive traits. And I really felt like the test was really primarily designed to validate my experience, not punish me for it. It wasn't about punishing me for not memorizing the PM body of knowledge. And Andrew, I'm giving him praise and I'm giving him feedback. Like he said, this is a 270-page book. He said I should have read it twice before going into the exam. It's stuff that you could look up like this. If you had questions about this, you would just look it up in this book. You would ask ChatGPT. He'd refresh me on what are the inputs and outputs of a given process step. Tell me how to define scope. It'll tell you, yeah, these are the inputs and these are the outputs. These are the tools and techniques you're going to use. You shouldn't have to memorize that stuff. That's why we have books. That's why we have AI now. So even his course was like, oh yeah, memorize. And maybe his training is geared towards people who are much more junior than I am. I'm an old fart. So, so I just want to make sure I cover that maybe if you're more, maybe this whole ramble is more for the more experienced people out there. If you're 5 years out of college, 4 years out of college, maybe you do need to read the PMBOK. I don't know. Again, the exam is all about mindset. Andrew's class is all talks about the PM mindset. I totally agree. PM's fetching food and water, servant leadership, enabling the team, and just not being a jerk. So I guess in the end, the PMI, even the PMI prep resources, a lot of these classes, a lot of these prep resources out there really scared me unnecessarily. So finally, what would I do differently? What did I wish I knew before the exam? Well, again, the PMI prep, all the prep stuff really scared me unnecessarily. It really created a lot of a doubt that I would do well, which, if again you think about the purpose is validating of experience, I have oodles of experience. I have plenty of experience. I should have did as well as I did on that test, and I did well on it, and I should have. If that test was designed to do what I think they wanted it to do, which is to be able to validate experience and the right kind of experience and the right kind of demeanor, it succeeded. And it doesn't take memorizing equations to demonstrate. There's much more important. Just as an aside, EVM, like those earned value equations, are kind of ridiculous because it all presumes a linear project budget, and no project budget is linear. Right? Your prep phase is cheap. Your execution phase is expensive. Your closing down is cheap. You know, all the EVM stuff assumes a very linear budget. I don't know what projects are run like that. So the EVM stuff on its face is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, they should drop it. It should. It's the right thinking, but it's a much more complicated math problem than how it's portrayed. So I'm glad they are not emphasizing it. I would love to take a class on EVM though. I think there's a lot of powerful concepts there. So sorry, that's an aside. Yeah, so ultimately I was far more prepared for this exam than the practice test told me. I didn't finish my story. I took one practice test with the Andrews practice test. I got 81. I took the second one at the back of the book the day before. I took a day off from work, and I got like a 76. I was like, oh God, I've gone down 5 points, and after cramming for a week or 10 days, this is not going to go well. So it was definitely not indicative of the experience that I had on the test. So the preparation materials that are out there in the world in the fall of 2025 do not align to the test that is being given to people in the fall of 2025. And, you know, I think I wish I would have known that, hey, if you're experienced in project management, if you have good leadership experiences, if you're not a jerk, just go take it and find out before investing a lot of prep money. You're probably going to do fine. You're probably going to pass it. You don't have to just spend tons and tons of time or additional money on preparation when they're just going to prepare you for the exam that was in 2019 or 2018. The exam is very new. I'm sure they're probably struggling. The preparation people, the industry of PMP test prep probably is struggling with the fact that how do we create a course where we teach people how to not be a jerk? It's a lot easier to create a prep course around how to do critical path problems, or earned value problems, or tell me the 3 inputs to a given process or the outputs. You could write tests around that very easily. It's hard to test people on what would you do in this situation, what's the best course of action. It's hard to prep for that. So I get why the prep classes out there today don't address that. And honestly, I think if you're interested in taking this test, and if there's somebody out there that you can find that's a PMI prep resource, class deliverer that gets you your 35 hours, that is taking the tack that I'm describing, that might be a good preparation. I will say that Andrew's class did have a good amount of focus on mindset, and that was far better than the class I took back in 2018. That was just reciting a bunch of lists that I had to memorize. So anyway, yeah. So hopefully this has been helpful. This is a lot less scripted than I usually do. You could probably tell, a little more top of mind, downloading my experience. Like I said, I think ultimately continuous improvement people, continuous improvement leaders are change leaders. Change leaders are project leaders. The project management professional certification is a very recognized credential. So, for what we do, it's probably the best credential out there. I think there's a lot of variability in Lean Six Sigma credentials. Some companies you go through hell and back, like I did at Bank of America, was a very, very strong uh, certification path that was from GE. And then I've seen companies that do it much leaner, much smaller. You can even go get certified probably on Udemy. They'll probably do a master black belt for $49, which I think would be egregious. So the point being is that there's a lot of variation in the quality of Lean Six Sigma certification, but I think in terms of project management professional certification, there is one trusted certification and a body of knowledge and certifying bodies. So I think that makes it worth looking into and worth pursuing. So again, hopefully this was helpful. A lot of tangents. Welcome to my mind. Hopefully you go do it. Let me know if you do it. Reach out to me if I can help. I would love to help anybody kind of do this, just because again my fears were very, very misplaced. So as always, onward and upward. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.